Alright, welcome to another edition of JTJU, where we all try to be just a little better at the game of Clash of Clans. Got another Clan War Tactics screencast. It's been a while, but we got a new one for you. The Big Daddy Fire Team, BDFT. That's the 5 Golem attack at Town Hall 10. First God created the Infernos, then he created the Golems to counteract. Now before we get into that though, let's give a head nod to our backup music, Mr. James Taylor with I've Seen Fire, which is what this whole attack's about, and I've Seen Rain, which is what the Golems bring. So, with that said, let's get to it. First attack. So the first video is actually the one that triggered me looking into this. It's from Watch Clash TV. It's a good channel, and it starts out as normal attacks do. He triggers the clan castle, then he drags it up to the top and kills it with a CC223. No big deal, but then come out the 5 Golems, and that's where it begins to be interesting, because that's a lot of heavy meat shield to be thrown, and he comes into the mid, but the key is how the Golems saturate the eye towers. All 5 threads of the eye tower are hitting either the Golems or the Royals, and it doesn't hit the backers, as I call them, the weaker units, so they can end up cleaning everything, and voila, he ends up rolling the base. But it's a little misleading. I mean, this base is a Town Hall 9 max in reality. If you looked at all the defensive buildings before it got blown up, the only thing it had mid-level Town Hall 10 with the 2 eye towers, so it's really not, and plus it's not a good base layout, but still, even if you can just get 2 stars consistently in Town Hall 10, it's worth looking into. So let's take a look at 4 other attacks that actually achieve that and talk about what you need to be worried about. Attack number 2. Alright, so as with prior Clan War tactic videos, I'm going to go through 4 other attacks. First one I'll go through slowly to kind of go through the key points that we need to be thinking about in any attack of this type. And then the last 3 I'll kind of go in a faster clip to kind of just show you how those techniques or the steps apply to each base. That said, let's do the first question. Is it the right style? What we want to be looking for with the BDFT is pathing. We want to make sure that both the Golems, which are defensively pathed, will get to one or both eye towers with either the way the base is laid out or shaping, and the backers that come behind the actual Golems also will path, and that has to take into account non-defensive buildings, which will distract those units. So in this case, looking at this base, we're going to come from 330 because you can see here the defensive pathing, if we blow right there, works pretty well. And then we'll also cut a little bit around 430 to allow to make sure our backers will flow into that same path. Lastly, a carefully placed jump right there at around the gold storage will allow pathing into where the eye towers are while not going up and into that AD archer tower position. So if you do all those things in combination, the pathing is there, so it is the right style. Green. So the next point is attack line. We already talked about in the first one where we should attack from to figure out if we should even do it, so let's instead talk about why we didn't attack from other places. So if you attack from 6 or 12, the problem will be the Golems are going to spread out, which kills the whole point of the attack, which is you want to reach the eye towers with a group of Golems, all 5, saturating their threads of fire, and so that would be knocking those out. Now if you attack from something like 730 instead and tried to leverage the wall as your one side and do cuts in the other, kind of deploying the giants first at 7 and then drawing them back with wall breakers there at 730 to the cannon, that could work. It's a little harder, and you'll continue to get pressure from the defensive buildings at 9 on your backers, which is a little more risky. So it's a little cleaner to come from 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, which is what we did, so we're going to give it a green. Next question is how to handle the clan castle. It's an easy answer. If you can trigger it, kill it with a CC223, 2 witches, 2 wizards, 3 barbs, plus some other stuff. Otherwise, if you can't, swap out one of your spells for lightning and deal with it in the walls. We went with lightning. It's a green. So the next question is the Golem deployment and the cuts based behind it. And this I'm actually going to give a yellow, I'll tell you right now, because look at the early drop of the wall breakers behind, which actually is the following step. Ideally, you want the Golems a little more spread so that there's the fires going to the outsides, and then the wall breakers come in between them and the Golems go back in. That way you don't lose a lot of wall breakers. So you can see here that mortar is firing. That's going to take out one of the wall breakers, and they're going to die. Another reason it's yellow is because the wall breakers, you want to hold those back so the Golems stay outside until the cuts are done. And you see they're flowing in now, and that's actually initiating the true attack. And we don't want that to start happening until the cuts are down, so the backers can be kind of coming in more timely behind the Golems. See how there's a little bit too much of a gap there? You want a gap, but not too much of a gap. Basically, you'd want to drop them right now, the rest of the deployment, and see how there's a little bit of a lag. Still waiting, here they come, still coming, And see how the golems are taking a lot of pounding from the clan castle troops, and that's the issue. You don't want to be too close to get a lot of pounding from the area effect mortar and splash damage, but anyway, the deploy was a little late, so we'll give it a yellow as well. So now all your troops are down, moving into the base, and the next question is when to use the spells. As you can see there's a core, which is the 2 rage and the 1 jump to get to the town hall that always seem to be in this mix. But the other 3, or the other 2, can be used depending on the base. If you got a single eye tower, you probably want another freeze at least, or at least 1. If you got a hard T-duct, as I mentioned in this CAC, for example, you can use lightning, and so on. But that about does it. Let's move into the other 4, or other 3, and take a look at it in more high speed. Alright, the next attack is going to be an example of a double jump with the Big Daddy Fire team, because of the fact that it's very difficult, as you look at this base, to... The attack line should be from 3 or 9, but it's hard at 3 or 9 to not use a ton of wall breakers. There's 3 main joints that'll have to be blown to get in, just to get towards the town hall. So a well-placed jump instead to get that initial layer, and another jump after that is better. But also you can see here that the minions are coming out and doing a little bit of cleaning. So if you can get 2 buildings for a minion or 1 building for an archer without any pressure, you should do that. It gives you a little help for your percentages. So now the main attack begins, but let's zoom in on the pathing of the golems, because again, that's the core of the Big Daddy Fire team attack. Golems getting to the eye towers in all one group. And so by placing 2 jumps here, we get to the compartment of the queen, but also have access to the other 2 compartments, which allows, once the golems are done in that queen compartment, they'll move across laterally to that air defense tower at 430-ish, and then we can do a second jump right there that's only going to allow access into the mid. You know, because controlling where the jumps let them go, the placement of those jumps is also a big component of this attack, so think about that before that you get into it. Attack lines are green. The other concern I had with the golems is, you notice I went in a little early. The jump was a little early in its placement. We could have held them a little longer because we wanted to let the wizards complete their attack. Notice that big bomb almost blew up some of our wizards that were coming in for the main backers. That would have been a bad situation because this attack has very limited basically damage dealers behind the golems. There's not a lot of slots left after you have 150 worth of meat shield. So you got to be very careful and take care of your backers, and so pausing, and not too long a pause, but pausing to allow things to clean up before you go in with the other stuff is key. So I'm going to give it a yellow on the golem cut pause. But you can see here the pathing works out, everything gets to the mid. It's a little questionable for a brief moment, but at the end the queen figures out where she's supposed to go and uses that last jump to get there. And I think we end up closing it out a little early. Alright, let's just do 1 more attack, not 2. So the next one we'll look at is where the layout is actually a little challenging for the Fat Fire team, the Big Daddy Fire team, in that it's spread. See how there's not a lot of containment areas for the attack, and so we're going to get a little fancy on how we actually do our cuts and the pathing of the golems so that and where the jump spells are so that they get back to mid. Yellow. Also notice we didn't snipe a couple of the free buildings that we had out there, so that's a red. Now the attack line and cuts and the golem usage is probably the best in the set you've seen here, in that it's very intricate in terms of we're doing the delayed golem, we're not penetrating quickly, we're letting the wizards complete their cuts, first layer, and then we're coming in and we're using the lateral move of the golems to then have the second jump be isolated to the mid. And notice the king jumps in because one of the little nuances of cutting is that if the king is cutting on one side of a defense and then there's a building over a wall right next to him, he'll jump in instead of continuing down a channel. So really that was green in terms of attack line and cuts. The lightning you saw went down, so that'd be green as well, and the deployment timing was pretty good. So all in all, this attack was well done except for the freebies in the beginning and the fact that we had a lot of spread in the middle, and see how that's causing some worry now because we're getting pot-shotted on the queen from the outside and we're only at 46%. And granted, we have 3 golems left, but we've only got 1 queen, right? So, and this is the weakness of the attack, in that if you lose your backers, queen being one of them, and you don't have your percentage points, you're toast. So always get those freebies would be my recommendation. Alright, that wraps up this edition of Attack Review. Hope it helped you out. Let me know how the Big Daddy Fire team works out for you. If you got more time in your hands, you can always check out the prior screencast, which is Go Wipe Snipe Low at Town Hall 8. Or, of course, serendipity, check out our new sub, Brian, who professes his love to his significant other, Giovanna. The world needs more of that, so I thought I would share it. Alright, guys, good luck out there. Mr. Taylor, take us out.